must unite what has been set aside.
We are TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. In here, the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear, you will be safely traveling with us. Let me give you my Religion of Peace report to begin things off. The Religion of Peace, in the last 7 days, conducted 26 attacks. In these 26 attacks, they killed 150 innocent people. They injured 164 innocent people. They conducted 0 suicide blasts. I think that is a first in all the years that I've been giving this report. And they spread their mayhem across 13 countries. Now, why 13 instead of 11? Well, I will tell you. At least 4 propaganda posters have appeared on Quraysh, a pro-ISIS media outlet, urging followers to ignite fires in forests, citing the Middle East Media Research Institute. Quote, ignite fires in the forests of America, France, Britain, and Germany, for they are painful to them, one poster reads, according to the site. Keep your eyes open, Earth Explorers, and make sure you call 911 if you see anything suspicious. Remember, we are at war with the global syndicate, and they have unlimited funding. As you may have heard in the news, Midway was the number 1 movie for the weekend. Kind of interesting. It's a remake of a remake. But the interesting, we were talking about the old World War II movies that have been made, Tora, and the original Battle of the Bulge and Midway, and even the remake of Pearl Harbor. Those, they tried as much as they could to use real airplanes in some of those because they didn't have special effects in those days. So I remember in one they had planes painted up as Zeros, but they weren't Zeros at all. Not those of us that know World War II planes. The point is that they had to use real airplanes. In this one, they can use a lot of CGI, and they can make it really more realistic to you with what it was like close up in the front windshield of the cockpit of these airplanes, and what incredible odds they faced. But what's interesting is that America was in the mood to go to the movies this weekend and watch a war against insurmountable odds, outnumbered, out-teched, outmaneuvered, outgunned, and still we managed to turn the tide of the war. We managed to let an enemy know that we weren't going to take it anymore. And, this is a station, Truth Frequency Radio, which is a network of 37 hosts that broadcast 24 hours a day. We have all kinds of opinions here on this network. But one thing I will tell you, this is where the truth freaks hang out. And we are not afraid to let our truth freak flag fly. Now, America Free Radio, which is the voice of the revolution, is my call sign out there on all of the social media. I always end everything AmericaFreeRadio.com. That's because here we believe in America. We believe in the experiment of America. And we believe that we have been fighting this battle not for 3 years. No. We have not been fighting this battle for 3 years. The Democrats have impeached or attempted to impeach every single president since Eisenhower. This is not old to us. This is the regular modus operandi. And they've been doing it since 1848. How do I have the proof? Well, I have a voice from the past. Nathaniel Grigsby. He was a Union officer during the Civil War. He was a patriot, and he was a close friend of President Abraham Lincoln. He was also very much on to the treasonous and evil antics of the Democrat Party, which, after the Civil War, established an enforcement arm to keep former slaves from voting and from prospering. And I got to tell you that arm was very effective until 3 years ago. You might better know that enforcement arm as the Ku Klux Klan. Oh, they go by many names, but they very effectively formed city plantations upon which they placed blacks at a disadvantage educationally, at a disadvantage economically, at a disadvantage with respect to opportunity. And they kept them there for over 100 years. So this is what it read on Nathaniel Grigsby's tombstone. Let's see. Let's see here. I got it right here. Oh, yeah. In Kansas, that's where this man was buried, one man carried out his dying wish, and he gave us a grave warning, no pun intended, about the Democratic Party. 129 years ago, his last request was fulfilled and etched on his tombstone. Nathaniel Grigsby was born on October 11th, 1811. He was a Civil War veteran, a second lieutenant of Company G, 10th Indiana Cavalry. He was a farmer. Nathaniel was a dear friend of Abraham Lincoln. After Lincoln moved to Illinois in 1830, Nathaniel moved with his father to Carroll County, Missouri in 1855. In 1860, he was living in Norborne. He wrote to Lincoln and received an appointment as Republican precinct committee man. He placed Lincoln's name on the 1860 ballot. I think they were pretty close, don't you? All of Natty's neighbors were Southern sympathizers. He had been talking about electing Lincoln for president in town. One morning at about 2 or 3 a.m., a neighbor rode up and told Natty not to light any lights. The neighbor wanted to warn him that his neighbors were planning to murder him, and if he wanted to live, he should be on his way. After a warning, Natty moved back to Spencer County, Indiana, where he and 4 of his 5 sons enlisted in Company C, 10th Indiana Cavalry. Natty was named second lieutenant. In 1890, Mr. Grigsby passed away in Kansas. However, he left a brilliant warning to future generations inscribed on his tombstone. This is what it said. Through this inscription, I wish to enter my dying protest against what is called the Democratic Party. I have watched it closely since the days of Jackson and know that all the misfortunes of our nation has come to it through this so-called party. Therefore, beware of this party of treason. Set in that stone is a warning to all about the Democrat Party. Even Snopes states that the inscription is in fact true. While you can blame it on his involvement in one of the bloodiest battles in history, losing a son in the war, or the fact that his childhood friend was assassinated, it still rings true. You can even choose to believe the old Dixiecrat lie that even Soda Head admits to a myth back in 2002. You can even blame his 30 years of bitterness of the KKK, founded by Democrats. It seems these days that everywhere I turn, race, old politics, reparations, and reverse racism is everywhere. Calls to destroy the Constitution, wanting amendments to destroy the Bill of Rights or parts of it, calls to turn our beloved country into the USSR type structure, and racist organizations have all one thing in common. Since the DNC likes to drag up the nation's past while inciting the public into another civil war, well, we can play at that game too. And it seems Nathaniel Grigsby's dying wish to warn us was right all along, 129 years ago. This is where the past meets the future here on America Free Radio, the X Squared Radio program. And we bring this to you every Sunday night between 8 and 11. We begin the news week right here every week. Tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, the news will pick up right where we left off. Sometimes they even use my headlines. Sometimes the daytime hosts and the afternoon hosts use the information that I put out on Sunday nights. You're in the right place. You are in the right place. So the impeachment battle is finally getting ready to start. Oh, we've had some skirmishes. We've had no real pitched battles yet. Because President Trump should be afforded an opportunity to confront his accusers, the anonymous whistleblower should testify. Don't you think? I'm pretty sure you do. I do too. There is no law anywhere on any book, no statute that says the whistleblower's identity is to remain secret. Not at all. The whistleblower statute has to do with retribution against the whistleblower for bringing out something that an organization in which he works is perpetrating some misdeed. Human resource violation, money laundering, you name it. A whistleblower can come forth and turn in his organization. But a whistleblower cannot take secondhand, third-hand, and fourth-hand information, put together a legal analysis, and that's exactly what the transcript of the whistleblower's complaint was. A legal complaint, and then remain secret, and then never have to come out in public, and then never have to be identified, and never have to make his accusations face to face to his defendant. Moreover, given the multiple discrepancies between the whistleblower's complaint and the closed-door testimony of the witnesses, it is imperative that the American people hear definitely how the whistleblower developed his or her information and who else the whistleblower may have fed the information to or from, by the way, and how he developed that narrative. As the American public is now aware, just a couple of months ago, you and your staff met with or talked with the whistleblower who raised an issue with the president, was President Trump's phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky. This is a conversation meant for Adam Schiff for brains. Although you claim that nothing inappropriate was discussed, the three committees deserve to hear directly from you the substance and circumstances surrounding any discussions conducted with the whistleblower and any instructions you issued, coaching, tampering with that witness regarding those discussions. Given that you have reneged on your public commitment to let that committee interview the whistleblower directly, you are the only individual who can provide clarity as to these conversations. It goes on. The requested witnesses also include Hunter Biden, who sat on the board of Ukrainian gas company Burisma. By the way, Hunter's not running for office. He was paid up to $83,000 a month. Must be nice. just because his father was vice president and just because his father was in charge of the Ukrainian portfolio with respect to the United States government. Former Vice President China Joe Biden has famously talked about forcing Ukraine to fire its chief prosecutor. You saw the tape. I saw the tape. He's guilty. He can be prosecuted based upon that confession. Also requested, Alexandra Chalupa. No, not. It doesn't have anything to do with the Mexican dish. I like chalupas. To me, that's health food. Alexandra Chalupa, the Ukrainian-American Democratic National Committee operative who worked with the Ukrainian officials to obtain dirt on then candidate Donald Trump's campaign. Remember, Donald Trump was not declared the nominee until May 26th, 2016. This was going on a long time. Oh, also on the list, and you're going to find this interesting. Good old little quiet, mousy, fluent in Russian, had lots to do with Fusion GPS and able to get the dossier through all the channels to the right place. Her husband at the FBI. Good old Nellie Orr, the wife of a Justice Department official, Bruce Orr, who worked for Fusion GPS on their dossier of Trump. Nellie gathered information from sources actually inside the Ukraine. That's called foreign meddling in an election. It's a federal crime, including from former Ukrainian parliamentarian Shuli Lyshenko. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Republicans also requested for Devon Archer. I don't know if you know who he is. He is China Joe Biden's long-term business partner, who also served as a fellow board member of Burisma. Now, Burisma is an interesting company. As far as my investigation can find out here, Burisma is actually a shell corporation. I don't know if you know what a shell corporation is. A shell corporation is a publicly trading entity that has some age on it. Usually what they'll do is they'll take a business venture and they will reverse merge it with the public entity. They do this for a couple of reasons. The primary reason is to allow that entity to sell stock on the public market. That's one way. And by the way, they do give stock away to executives to bring them on board. It'd be surprising to know how much stock Hunter Biden got, how much stock Joe Biden got or his foundation got from Burisma as a publicly trading company. But the other thing that they do these mergers for is to create a corporate veil. Now, the corporate veil is really important because it's very difficult to pierce if it's set up right, if the bylaws are set up right, if you've got some badass law firm and accounting firm to front for you. It creates a very effective veil that protects not just the shareholders, it also protects the executives inside that corporation from direct prosecution. That's one of the reasons why we set up corporations in the first place. That's why you set up an LLC. That's why you set up a C Corp or an S Corp, is to protect you and your home and your assets and the other things that you have that have nothing to do with the company in case the company gets sued. And that appears to be the main reason that Burisma was set up, because Burisma was going to do something, lot other things besides manage the drilling and exploration and transportation and refinement of oil and natural gas. It was to launder money. It was to launder lots of money, billions and billions of dollars. Now, how does this work? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. When a shell corporation is set up, it's kind of like the top of a pyramid. It is the main avenue in or out of the actual for-profit arm of that money. Once the money comes in through the front door, the top of the pyramid, then it begins to sprinkle out through the bottom of the pyramid. And in the bottom of the pyramid are all these blocks, which we call foundations, nonprofits, all these other shell corporations which have other veils. Each one has its own bank accounts. They might be in Ireland. They might be in the Caymans. They might be in Canada. They might be in Switzerland. And this money will go like a pachinko machine. I don't know if you've ever actually seen a real pachinko machine, but you kind of flip a steel ball up into the top, and then it bounces off little nails going through it randomly until it falls out into the pay hole in the bottom. That's kind of what happens to the money once it gets into these giant corporations. It's just like a pachinko machine. And they have procedures for moving this money around. Why did they do this? Why do you think they do this? The main reason they do it is because that money is going to people in places and with responsibilities that those people have no business receiving this money. And where did the money come from? It came from me. It came from you. It came out of our paychecks on Friday. They took the money out of our paychecks. They transported it to Burisma in the Ukraine. It went into the Ukraine, filtered right back. And guess where it went? Right back to the government officials that set up the tax in the first place. It's called money laundering. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal. On a small scale, what we saw and is beginning to unravel in Baltimore with the Baltimore gang is exactly what we're talking about. Now, this is a lesser amount, but we're talking about $16 to $18 billion that went to Baltimore in the form of various federal tax grants, low interest loans that never get repaid, and other forms of cash. That cash went into Baltimore and it filtered out through the mayor's office, through the city council, through various other elected and appointed and bureaucratic positions throughout the Baltimore gang. And many, many nonprofits set up along the way. The Hispanic American Awareness Foundation, made up of two guys. They got $300,000. Two guys. Your tax money. Just take it. Let's see. How about to $800,000? That's a lot of money, isn't it? That's enough for you to retire on, isn't it? $800,000 given to Maya Cummings. You know who Maya Cummings is, don't you? Why, yes, the wife of Elijah Cummings. Why was it given to her? Well, it wasn't like, here, Maya, have $800,000. Oh, no. They're much smarter about that. They've read the entire Clinton manual of self-enrichment. You see, what Maya did is she created a nonprofit, a firm. It had a wonderful name. And unfortunately, there was only one employee to this firm. One. And it was Maya. But see, that veil was there. So then, in order to get the money, she had to go to the GSA, the General Services Administration, which is kind of like eBay for the government. And she said, you know what I want to do? I want to write some children's books to teach kids not to be fat. I want to teach them to eat right. I'm going to call it Healthy Holly. That's what Healthy Holly books. And I'm even going to write them myself. Yep, I'm going to write them myself. I'm going to publish them myself, and I want to make sure that they get distributed to all the fat kids in Baltimore. And I need $800,000, just to cover the costs. And there you go. It's one of the favorite ways to launder money. Another example, Mr. Bernie Sanders. Oh yeah, Mr. Bernie Sanders. He's a busy guy. In fact, he's so busy he doesn't have time to sit down and write a book, and he didn't. A ghostwriter put Bernie Sanders' name on a book. They had rich investors come in and pay to put that book on the New York Times bestseller list. They bought 25,000 copies of the book, then another 25,000, then another 25,000, almost 100,000 copies of that book. Nobody read it. They just buy it. They just buy it and put it in a warehouse. But Bernie gets the money. Bernie becomes a millionaire. Bernie becomes a millionaire. Why? Because he and his wife had bad debts with the bank. They defrauded the bank out of almost $385,000. So you see, they needed money. They needed money to clear these debts. And Bernie doesn't make that much as a congressman. He only makes $174,000 a year. He needed a lot of money, and that was a way to get it to him. This is what I'm talking about. All this structure is now being exposed. I just exposed it right here on America Free Radio, the voice of the revolution. Now you know what it is. Now everyone knows what it is. And the house of cards is coming down, and they don't like it. They don't like it. And so since before President Trump was elected, I say before he was inaugurated, the impeachment office of the Democrat Party has been trying to overturn the election. So you just have to go through and see all of this. We have about 1 minute left in this segment, and I wanted to tell you about a new sponsor that we have. The sponsor is called WowieTel. WowieTel. Now, I know a lot of you have one of these, right? Yes, you have a smartphone just like me, and you have all these crazy apps on it. I mean, I have like pages and pages of them on my phone, just like that. You have the same thing on your phone, all these apps. And in order to call internationally, sometimes you have to get an app on your phone, that allows you to do it for free. So you do voice over IP, and the guy on the other end, he has the same app, and then you can talk back and forth. Well, sort of. It's pretty bad calling quality, isn't it? Oh, there's another issue with it. Besides them having to have the same app as you, whether it's the W app or the S app or the T app or the P app. Oh, yeah, there's a P app out there too. Whether you have both of those or not, all that data, all your metadata and your client that you're talking to, it's all sold. It's all gathered and sold. And they don't even bother hacking it. You just give it to them. WowieTel doesn't do any of that. You're free. You're secure with WowieTel. There's the website right there, WowieTel.com. Use the code BA/2019. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go away.
Hey everyone, it's Chris Gio, founder of Truth Frequency Radio and host of Beyond the Veil. The mainstream media and establishment are running scared right now, and they've prominently featured truthfrequencyradio.com as number 89 on the federal government's hit list, also known as the fake news list, which is essentially a list of sites slated for censorship on Facebook, YouTube, Google, and other social media. Now is the time for you to get involved. Share your favorite TFR shows far and wide on forums and social media. Tell your friends and family about your favorite shows. If you're a business owner, get in touch with us to feature your product or service right here on TFR. And if you haven't done so already, become a TFR supporter now and get unlimited commercial-free downloads in high quality. Visit truthfrequencyradio.com/sign-up. Thank you for making TFR the leader in independent and uncensored talk radio. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
This is iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio makes you want to move. When you have a great melody, a song can last forever.
Instantly connected.
I love it when the beat goes.
Did you know you can listen to Truth Frequency Radio on iHeartRadio? Just download the app to your smart car, smartphone, or smart TV and get the best of TFR wherever you are.
iHeartRadio.
I'll see you there.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Once in a decade, a true story comes along that remembers the future. After 6 Amazon bestsellers, I have completed the epic Birth Trilogy, a true story of Earth. By reading the Birth Trilogy, you will journey with the characters from the origin of Earth to its final destiny in a white-knuckle ride that combines the intrigue of Tom Clancy with the epic scope of Prometheus and Interstellar. You will learn more about the purpose of life life, the mystery of death, and the true nature of your soul than you thought possible. The Birth Trilogy is now available on Amazon and Kindle. The audio version is a free bonus when you buy the paperback, so even if you're not a great reader, don't worry about it. I read it for you. Use the Amazon app today and buy the Birth Trilogy, spelled B-E-A-R-T-H, or search for my name. I'm Brooks Agnew.
No hate, no hype, no fear. We are EFR, your protection from deception.
So glad to have you back, Earth Explorers, to America Free Radio, the voice of the revolution. This is a live call-in program, and we're live right now. And the phone number to call in is 213-233-3998, 213-233-3998. I'll watch the call boards if you want to slide in and ask me anything about anything. I can probably either answer it or I won't. Yesterday, House Intelligence Committee ranking member Representative Devin Nunes, who is a Republican from California, he sent a list of witnesses that are just kick-ass. Schiff, a Democrat from California, responded to the letter late yesterday afternoon with his own 2-page letter. He wrote the impeachment inquiry, quote, has gathered an ever-growing body of evidence from witnesses and documents, including the president's own words in his July 25th call record, that not only confirms but far exceeds the initial information in the whistleblower's complaint. Of course, all of that is a complete lie. The whistleblower's testimony is therefore redundant and unnecessary. Really? So, since you have other people's testimony besides the whistleblower, you don't need to bring the whistleblower forward because you know the question that would be asked of the whistleblower. In light of the president's threats, the individual's appearance before us would only place their personal safety at grave risk. Really? I mean, it's not as though they're testifying against Hillary. That would put their personal safety at grave risk. In September, Schiff said the whistleblower would appear before Congress, quote, very soon, but later has said the testimony isn't necessary. In the phone call, Trump pressed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to conduct an investigation of the Bidens, and that's not true. What he asked for was to reopen the investigation into the 2016 election with its corruption. It was the president of Ukraine that brought up the name Joe Biden. Anyway, the whistleblower in a complaint alleges that Trump abused his official powers, which of course he did not. In the letter, Schiff said, this inquiry is not and will not serve, however, as a vehicle to undertake the same sham investigations into the Bidens as we are doing. Oh, no, that's not what it says. Or 2016, that the president pressed Ukraine to conduct for his personal political benefit. That never happens. I mean, the Democrats never do that. Now, do they? Also, yesterday, the whistleblower's attorney, now this is interesting, Andrew Bakay, he reiterated that his client is only willing to answer questions in writing, a suggestion that any decent defendant would reject. He said, my client's complaint has been largely corroborated. Nonetheless, I have offered to have my client respond in writing under oath and under penalty of perjury to Republican questions, because he didn't write it anyway. So the same team of lawyers that put together the original complaint will put together the answers, and they'll be just as vague and just as second-hand, third-hand, fourth-hand as the first one. Nunes, who served as chairman of the committee until the Democrats regained control of the House in 2018, he wrote, and I quote, "The minority members must identify all potential witnesses we wish to call before knowing the number, topics, or scope of hearings you intend to convene." For example, let's see, Democrats' impeachment process against President Trump is a drastic departure from bipartisan precedent for presidential impeachment proceedings. Not that we've had that many. The GOP's witness list also named another former Burisma board member, Devin Archer, former Democratic National Committee staffer Alexandra Chalupa, Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs David Hale, former National Security Council official Tim Morrison, former contractor for Fusion GPS Nellie Orr, former U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine Kurt Volker, and the individuals from which the whistleblower obtained information about the phone call, which there are, I assume, many. And all of this will be a joke, but the issue is that it will eat up airtime. Now, it isn't really going to work, and I'll tell you why. By the way, the phone lines are open. It's 213-233-3998. And if you want to just sit out there and listen on the phone, we have some out there. Hi, Jen. I see you out there. You can call in 425-434-2069. 434-2069. You can call that and you could just listen. Put your earbuds in and, go to Whole Foods or go to Pier 1 Imports and walk around and listen to the program. That's fine with me. And we talk about a lot of subjects on this program. So I'm going to change gears here because I don't think people want to keep talking about this impeachment thing. You're going to get it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the next little, by the way, Boo, who's out there, says that she wants to have a revolution badge. Now, if you're listening on YouTube Live, which there are a lot of you out there doing that right now, I want you to notice there's an extra feature this week. And you know why that is? Because we have finally reached the threshold. Yes, we've finally reached the threshold. After all these years, you can now go to the top chat and you see that little top chat $ button at the bottom. You can actually contribute to X Squared Radio. Yes, you could help keep that light on right there. In fact, let me turn on this other light. Oh, yeah, there we go. Now we have all the lights on. And you can actually click that and give anything you want, a penny, $1,000, anything you want. And what we'll do is it'll highlight your name, and then I will talk about whatever you mention in your question. So she wants a revolution badge. I think it's a great idea, and I think that we should do it. What is this? Oh, yeah. Let's see. He is not blowing the whistle on his horrendous employer, the CIA, to disclose any kind of abuse, although overthrowing countries and initiating color revolution is something they do frequently. Yes, the CIA, all about the revolution. And you know what's interesting? It seems like all roads lead to John Brennan. John Brennan is a bad man. John Brennan had a lot of people killed. All those Russians that Samantha Power was drinking wine with and staying up late with, they're all dead. They're all dead. John Brennan and his CIA killed them all, everywhere, all over the world. They just went and killed them. And then Samantha Power was forced, maybe against her will, to go to the FISA court over and over and over again every single day for over a year, unmasking names while they investigated Donald Trump. They were spying on him, but they couldn't identify him because in the FISA surveillance, he shows up as, American number 1, American number 2. And what she had to do is she had to go there and unmask those Americans so that they could leak those things and for a long time, it was unbeknownst to them. They didn't know where the leaks were coming from. It was Samantha Power. And at the end of all of it, after Samantha Power had lost her job because, the Trump administration came in, gave pink slips to all the Obama people and got rid of them. Samantha Power was one of them. She was probably the first one. They realized that they were aiming their investigative arm at John Brennan. And Samantha Power took it upon herself to make the statement, "It is not wise to piss off John Brennan. She should know. She should know." So the CIA has been toppling governments all over the world since their formation. They've been assassinating people, bribing people, supporting despots and different manipulative people that are, quote, more open to supporting American imperialism. And slowly but surely they work their magic, which is a dark, black, bloody magic. And now they're involved in human trafficking. I was told over the weekend something very interesting. Drug trafficking in the United States is somewhere around a $17 billion a year job, a $17 billion a year industry, the illegal drug traffic market in the United States. I think it's probably a little bit more than that because I remember Wachovia Bank being busted laundering $329 billion of Sinaloa drug cartel cash. But this may have accumulated over a period of years. The point is that human trafficking in children and women is a $30 billion a year industry. $30 billion. And there are organizations out there of brave people who are trying to raise money. Let's see, Adam Kutcher's one, Sasha Stone is another. There's people that have put together these organizations, and they're sacrificing their time and their fame and their money and their political capital, and they're going after these people that are trafficking these kids, and they're trying to free these kids. Now, they're also being retaliated against. So there are lies being put out about these people, trying to stop them from hurting this very lucrative field. Because remember, there are several victims in this. First, there are the children themselves, the primary victim. There's also the person that they blackmail with the child. Once they're with the child, then they take some photographs and some videos, and then boom, you're blackmailed. That's why Epstein, by the way, Epstein didn't kill himself. That's why Epstein existed, because Epstein was kind of the hinge pin. He was kind of the pivot man, so to speak, that brought in these kids, facilitated them with an island and with an airplane and with some high-class setting so that they could abuse these young kids. And then, of course, all that action was filmed. And then whenever that person was needed to make a key decision or to sign an appropriate grant or a loan guarantee or drop an investigation, then that picture or that video became very, very valuable. And this is the way it works. This is why human trafficking is so powerful, because it brings the leadership of the world and all of the bureaucrats underneath them to their knees with this corruption. It's quite the operation, quite the operation. So if you click on the little badge down there, you can make a donation, and then you'll be highlighted for a while, and I will see your name, and then we can keep the lights on here. Oh, yeah, and don't forget about remote control of Hastings crash. Hastings was a reporter. He was a freelance reporter, and he had already written some things bad about a general, and he was about to bring out some more. Went to his friends one night and said, "Hey, I think I'm being followed by the FBI. I think I better lay low for a while." He left that party. All of a sudden, his car raced up to over 100 miles an hour on San Vicente Boulevard. I used to live in the area. San Vicente Boulevard, you can't really do 100 miles an hour on it, not for very far. And then all of a sudden, the car just exploded. The motor lurches out of the front of the vehicle down the road a little bit, and the car smashes into a palm tree, and Michael Hastings is burned alive in his car. Of course, He must have been stepping on the brake the entire time, trying to turn it off, trying to roll the windows down, trying to open the doors, trying to put it in a park, something. But remember, this car is all electronic, and you can hack that car. You can give it full throttle, disable the brakes, lock the windows, lock the doors, and of course you can't stop the vehicle because it has to be at a dead stop before you can put it in park electrically and turn off the motor by pressing the button on the dash. All that can be hacked. Oh, was it Nicholas? Oh, that was your dog's name. I think Michael Hastings. Yes. We're talking about pets. We're talking about all kinds of things in the chat room. So I'm watching it. It's a little bit lag behind, but I'm watching it. All right. I want to talk about this story because it's kind of close to me, being the CEO of an electric vehicle company. Batteries not included. You see, one of the things that people don't really realize about electric cars and robots and autonomous things that run on electricity is they have to have batteries to run. So looking beyond the dramatic headlines, the cliffhanger of Tesla's financial statement and all of that, we are talking about the materials that are needed to make batteries. Okay, of course you need lithium and you need other materials to make the ion exchange. And what we realized in very short order in my industry, because we don't make batteries, is that lithium is a rare earth metal. And it is also cornered, that is to say, all the mines, all the processing is all cornered by the Chinese. So the Chinese either make all the batteries or are involved in the making of all batteries. And so they keep the market artificially high. Also, the fact that it comes from China, the workmanship is very low. We get samples from China, and they're actually quite good. But then when the regular ordering starts and the regular shipments begin to arrive, we have seen as high as 75% failure rates. That's not good. See, that's what killed Fisker. Fisker went out there and tried to build, and they had battery failures. And others have tried as well. Coda and others, they all have battery failures. Same as Tesla. Tesla has over 1,100 batteries in their vehicles, but their failures have been quite spectacular. Now, what about the shortage of minerals required to build these batteries? It's very interesting. Making sure we do not have a lithium shortage to recycle the batteries. At present, we recycle almost 100% of the lead-acid automotive batteries and less than 5% of lithium batteries. When you go to take a battery back to AutoZone or Advance or O'Reilly's or Napa, you take your old battery in, right? You take the old battery in, you get a new battery. In fact, they charge you a core if you don't, because they need that battery. They take the plastic case apart, they recover all the lead from it, they reprocess the lead, and they make more batteries from it. It's almost 100% recyclable. Lead is an element, doofus. It's an element. It doesn't rot. It doesn't evaporate. It doesn't go away. The lead is recovered. The same thing could happen with lithium. And by the way, lithium is way more valuable than lead by many factors, many orders of magnitude. But we don't recycle it. We just throw the batteries away. You just drop your old lithium batteries in the trash when you throw them away. Same thing with cars. So what all this says is that the electric vehicle could emerge from its present position in the United States, as well as subsidized, as well a subsidized status symbol to a commercially competitive vehicle within 5 years if we set up this system of recycling. Right now, the infrastructure does not exist. It requires new modes of power distribution for charging stations, as well as ongoing commitment to fossil-free energy sources, which ain't going to happen. You're not going to have a wind generator to charge up your car. You're not going to have a bank of solar panels to charge up your car. You think, oh, hey, I can recharge my car in 45 seconds. That's a lightning bolt. Your car requires 50, 75, 80 kilowatt hours to run for 100, 200, 300 miles. Energy is energy. You either use the energy over an 8-hour period or you use it all in 8 seconds or 50 seconds. If you use it in 50 seconds, it takes a cable about that big around, and it's a lightning bolt. It's a lightning bolt. You're talking about 50, 60,000 watts in a very short amount of time. That's a lot of energy. You can't just, in a small town especially, go plug in your car and pump a bunch of electrons into it in 1 minute and have it recharge. You'll brown out the town. You're talking a 50, 60, 70 horsepower starter, which you're not going to have in a small town, not without a big soft start on it, because it takes a while for that to come up to power. It has to draw on all the power lines and transformers in that town. That's a lot of energy, and that's just one car. If you had 20 cars, you'd have to have an enormous amount of power in that town, unless you charge the cars up overnight. Somebody were to ask me, what's it cost? How long does it take you to charge this phone up? I'd have to say, I don't know. I mean, I've had smartphones for years. I've had, iPhones since 2012. And I still can't tell you how long it takes to charge the phone up. And I charge it up every day. Oh, yeah, that's right. What I do is I plug in the phone and I leave it on the counter. And then when I leave, I just unplug it, put it in my pocket, and go. Well, that's what an electric vehicle owner does too. They park the car in the garage, or they park the car in the slot, or they park the car at work, and they plug it in. And they plug it in, and they leave it plugged in. Cars are parked 22 to 23 hours a day. Yeah, most cars are parked over 22 hours a day. So while it's parked, it's plugged in. It's as simple as that. That's the way it works. Hey, we have a caller in, looks like Big Rapids, Michigan. Been on there for a little bit. I appreciate your patience. What's on your mind? Oh, he dropped off. You know why? Because he just wants to listen. So I'll tell you what you do, Big Rapids, Michigan. You call this number, 425-434-2069, and you can listen to the program and not show up on my call board, and then I won't ask you to answer a question. You can, of course, go to YouTube Live, and you can go into the top chat, and right down there at the bottom on the right-hand side, you'll see this Show Your Support for Brooks Agnew. And you click on that, and you put whatever dollar amount fits your satisfaction, and you can contribute to the program. So we appreciate you being there. And there's a lot of people in there. Let's see, Terry and Boo and Candace and Resonate 4 Red. I like that. Chuck Bam is there. Piper Vogel, of course, is there. Chuck Barn is there. Fame Miller. MacGyver's in there. I like that. That's a good name. It goes up and up and up. But see, with the top chat, what happens is your name gets highlighted. It stays there for a little bit, and I can see it. Terry says she gave $3.75. So I appreciate that very much. That will keep the lights on. So that's the deal about electric vehicles. And I don't think we're ready for prime time. I see a lot of people say, oh, the new electric truck is coming out. No, not really. I mean, we're still a couple years ahead of everybody out there. And besides, I own the patents for the rear drive. So if they want to build a pickup truck, the only way to compete with the pickup truck is to buy my patent. So get a hold of me and I will sell the patent to you and you'll be good to go. Or I can license to you, whatever you want to do. So aside from the limitations of the batteries, energy density, and mineral shortages, the electrification of transportation has the potential to eliminate roughly 1/4 of U.S. carbon emissions. And it does. No. See, in 1906, 1907, 70% of the vehicles in every major city in America were electric. All the trains, buses, yes, they were. All the cars, most of the trucks, they were all electric. You know why? Because you had to hand crank them. Now, if you have an arm like that, you can crank a truck or a car. But if you're a woman, you're not cranking no gasoline engine. There was a little wire that stuck out of the grill with a ring on it. And what you had to do is retard the spark on the distributor. Because remember, there was no anti-knock compounds in the gasoline. And if you did it wrong, that would kick back or pre-ignite back on you and break your arm. If you retarded the spark, you could get it on top dead center, and kind of like a Harley Davidson. You know how you kickstart a Harley Davidson? Yeah, well, except you're kickstarting it with your arm. Yeah, imagine, going and paying bills in your gas-powered car, and you have to start it 6 or 7 times. You'll have a blister on your hand. So electric cars were driven because they went 12 miles an hour, which was about the average for a vehicle in those days. And they were quiet. They called them hummingbirds. And Waverly made them and all kinds of other, and they could carry 6, 8 passengers. They were awesome. Exide batteries, all lead acid, all recycled. They were wonderful. They didn't have a lot of range because people didn't need a lot of range. And then in 1912, the electric starter was invented. And when the electric starter was invented, women could drive gasoline-powered cars, and things began to change. It still took a long time for those electric wires to come down out of the cities for the buses. I remembered them when I was a kid, and I'm not that old. Listen, if you are a foreign businessman, or you travel, or you speak to people in foreign countries a lot, one of the things you need is long-distance service. Now, I don't mean having to have them have the same app on their phone. That's a bunch of crap. Plus, every time you use one of those apps, they gather your metadata and they sell it. You want you and your client and that conversation that you're having to be hacked, to be transcripted and hacked? No. What you want to do is be able to call any phone, anytime, anywhere. I want to make a call to France. I want to make a call to Egypt. I want to make a call to Australia. All you need is the WowieTel app. WowieTel.com / and the promo code BA2019. Make sure you capitalize it. It's right there on the website. Capital B, capital A for Brooks Agnew. BA2019. That's your code. And then you can have the WowieTel app on your phone. Unlimited calls to anyone, and they don't have to have the app. You just call the phone number. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this. More X Squared Radio at the top of the hour.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like Beyond the Veil with Chris and Cherie Geo, X Squared with Brooks Agnew, Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, Jaronism Raw with Jaron and Missa, Fearless with Frank Castle, Strange World with Mark Sargent, The Eye of Ra with Ra Castaldo, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray, Ironworks with Josh Corey, The Kev Baker Show, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR-LIVE. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear on the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
The hearings, pro and con. Bolivian government in turmoil. I'm Evan Haining. The House's inquiry into whether President Trump should be impeached will go public this week, with televised hearings starting Wednesday. Republicans have submitted a list of witnesses they would like to testify, a list that includes the whistleblower and former Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter. On CNN's State of the Union, Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar said their testimony is not necessary.
Adam Schiff has said this best, and that's what this is all about, which was a sham investigation that the president was trying to push. And for now, the House is simply gathering relevant evidence about what the president did. That is what this is about.
Senate Judiciary Chairman, Republican Lindsey Graham, told Fox News Sunday Futures he does not expect hearings to be fair.
Mueller looked at Trump 2 years, $25 million, 40 FBI agents, and didn't find anything. Now we got it in the hands of Schiff and Nadler. If you think Schiff is looking for the truth, you shouldn't be allowed to drive anywhere in America because that's a ridiculous concept.
Suspicious activity in Bolivia's presidential election triggered weeks of protest. And today, correspondent Patrick Ottman reports President Evo Morales resigned.
There was a report that came out that said that he or members of his party had stolen the election and that he essentially was an illegitimate president and that he needed to hold another election. He agreed to that, but it was too late for Evo Morales, and the military essentially told him to step down.
Iran says it has discovered a new oil field with over 50 billion barrels of crude, a find that could boost Iran's proven reserves by a third as it struggles to sell energy abroad. A gallon of regular is $2.69 on average in the U.S., no price change over the last 2 weeks. I'm Evan Haining.
Wherever you are, make it Truth Frequency Radio.
A lot of people in the chat room talking about the price of gas in various places that they live. In California, it's just, we won't even go there. You have to get a home loan to fill up your car. Let's see. BJ's just right down here. You have to be a member, but it's $1.89. That's pretty cheap. I buy fuel for, I think, $2.12 in South Carolina. Let's see. Chuck Barn says it's $2.02 where he lives, $2.59 for premium. Yeah. Adam Schitz is a criminal, I say. Throw him in the clink. I agree. But let's change the subject. I want to talk about the news a little bit in China. The real China syndrome. China has high ambitions for its state-controlled digital currency. I mean, everything in China is state-controlled, if you really want to know the truth. If you've ever done business there, as I have, you will know that right away. 2 months ago, its central bank digital currency could be imminent. And since foreign adoption of the yuan has been tepid so far, because, the yuan isn't really a globally traded currency because it's manipulated. The technology also presents a massive bid to accelerate the internationalization of yuan another way, digitally. In hindsight, we tend to look backwards at things and we reflect. We try to analyze, were we right about things that we thought were going to happen? And what we found is that the timing is probably a little aggressive for this, but we're still seeing massive amounts of capital being put into it. Beijing likely will introduce its digital currency within 12 to 18 months. Now, what's going to happen in 12 to 18 months? Well, the election, of course, the American election. And we know that for a long time, China has been integrally tied to American manufacturing. And, of course, they've acquired a lot of our ability to manufacture. Back in the early, I'd say the mid-2000s, 2005, 2006, on up to about 2012, I was selling off plants. I was selling off manufacturing plants. And the Chinese were coming in and buying up all of the presses, all of the conveyor belts, all of the phosphate rust-proofing lines, and all of the CNC machines, and putting them on ships and taking them to China. Well, it did a couple things. First of all, it beefed up China's ability to make whatever it is we were making, motorcycles or handlebars or hospital beds or whatever, whatever we were making, they can now make. But it also kept us from making, it kept us from rebounding. We didn't have the machines. We didn't have the conveyor lines. We didn't have the robots. We didn't have 5-axis robots that we could program. We didn't have the CNCs, the computer numerically controlled lathes and drilling machines and surfacing machines to make stuff. So our ability to bounce back from a manufacturing point of view was greatly curtailed, and this was their plan. China's also doubled down on its conviction. Recently, Chinese Communist Party, that's the CCP that you see everywhere, that CCP. The leader, President Xi Jinping, further fanned the flames by extolling blockchain technology. Now, I'm not a blockchain expert, but I am a mathematician, and I know how these things work. When you blockchain something, it basically means that you've created a process flow for value. And people were talking about blockchaining the sun or blockchaining other commodities. This is the way Bitcoin was developed. Bitcoin was developed because they blockchained prime numbers. 1, 3, 5, 7, 11, so forth. All the prime numbers. It mined the prime numbers until it took huge amounts of computer power to come up with another prime number. A prime number is a number that can be divided only by itself and 1. Are they rare? Yes, they are. Are they unique? Yes, they are. This is the basis of the Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoins are rare and Bitcoins are high in value, or high in dollar amount, I'll put it that way. Can you buy stuff with a Bitcoin? Yes, I think there are places that you can buy things with a Bitcoin. I do think that largely it is anonymous purchases that are made with the Bitcoin. That's one of the allures of the Bitcoin. The other is that when the founders got in, they got in very low, and Bitcoin was $100 or $200. They got out when it was like $10,000, and rightfully so. I think I'm of the opinion that the artificial intelligences that are out there are the ones that not only helped in the creation of the Bitcoin, but they're also manipulating the Bitcoin and exchanging the Bitcoin themselves, and they're buying server space and power. That's just my idea. But blockchain technology has now spurred over 800 new kinds of currencies. Is this new? No, not really. When I was a kid, we had S&H green stamps. You probably remember walking down the aisle in the grocery store and seeing those little red boxes on the side with little flashing LED, and it had a coupon flapping in the wind there. And all you had to do was just reach up and pop that coupon out, and it would feed another one out. And what was it? It was $1 off of Tide. Or it was, 50 cents off of, Van Camp's beans. That was cryptocurrency. All that's cryptocurrencies. Those UPC symbols that are on there that you can scan at the cash register, the manufacturer or marketer of that product is willing to give you 50 cents, 80 cents, $2 back to know that you bought that at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Friday at that store. It's worth it to them to know where that product was built. That's why that coupon is there. They're blockchaining the laundry detergent. They're blockchaining those coupons, and it gives them valuable information for which they're willing to pay you a discount to get. Now, of course, they can do it automatically through the purchase at the counter. They gather all that information, and you do them a favor because you give them the MVP number. What's your MVP number? Oh, my MVP number is 555 555 5555. Very good. Guess what that did? That just identified you. It linked you with all the kernel corn and the whole wheat bread and the 2-for-1 ribeyes. It linked you to all those purchases. And then there's one more piece of data that they need, just one. And that's the debit card. Once you swipe the debit card, they have all your personal information, Your phone number, your address, your age, your medical records, everything is tied to that. They know you're buying bacon. They know you're buying cigarettes. They know you're buying beer. And they know what brand beer you buy, or wine, or whatever you buy. They know this all, and they link it to you, and they're profiling you. All these data points go into, well, Facebook. I know it sounds crazy, but Facebook has about 400 concurrent data points that run on every single one of you. 400 little bits of information about you are floating out there and being traded all over the place in order to link it to this kind of currency. It's really a no-brainer for them. And by and large, it started out kind of innocuous, which means they didn't really mean nothing by it. All they wanted to do was figure out who was buying their product and where, so they knew where to spend their advertising dollars the best. How do they spend those advertising dollars? Well, they put inserts in your local newspaper. They put mailers in your mailbox. And you remember driving around town and looking up and seeing those really nice electric billboards? Yeah? You've seen those, right? Well, those are called blinks. They're called blink billboards. And pretty much they're owned by one company. And what you can do is you can buy an ad, and you can actually buy the ad just like you buy an ad on Facebook. And you can put your ad in rotation. And the price of the ad varies as to what time of day it is. Is it rush hour, going northbound, going southbound? Is it daytime or nighttime? Does the ad stay up for 10 seconds or 30 seconds? How many cars are you going to be exposed to? See, all of this is linked to how their product is selling or not selling in certain markets. It's all very effective, and it's all tied to blockchain. The endorsement prompted a rally in the cryptocurrency price, which was perhaps undeserved, but its effect on cryptocurrencies, the Yuan global adoption, Facebook's Libra project, and Western banking hegemony can't be understated. I'm trying to tell you all the details to this right now. You're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. You're just getting a little bit of it. It is not only very complex, but it's very elegant and it's very beautiful. And it can also be very abused. China's strong endorsement of a blockchain-based central bank currency and the West's relative aversion to the technology, because you and I, we're pretty suspicious. You know, I buy stuff with cash because I want to be anonymous. I just do it just to mess with the AI. I got stuff in my fridge they don't have any idea I have in my fridge. Why? Because I like it that way. Cash. Doesn't it have a great sound to it? Cash. It's so much better than plastic. Whatever. The point is that developments in this fintech, in the payment system, in the blockchain digital currencies, they're receiving support from the highest levels of the Chinese central government. Why? Well, because the one thing that we do try to create in a currency, because it is a system of exchange, is value. Now, traditionally, that value has been created by backing it with gold or backing it with silver, right? This is the rare metal that makes the currency valuable. That's why the dollar has the value that it has. Of course, now we have all these like magic talismans on the dollar, and we have these little pyramids and different stars and, you know, different patterns and things, these talismans that give it some magic so that we will say, oh yeah, that's $5 worth of my time right there. Not really. It's just a piece of paper. It's just a promise to pay. It's just a promise to pay. That's all. What we're trying to do is exchange what it is you do at work with what it is you want on Amazon. Now, right? That's what it boils down to. All that's been done with currency. I was going to say dollars, but it's not necessarily dollars. It's some increment of value. Well, blockchain fits that part of the model just fine, but it doesn't fit the value part of the model. You see, that's why we're kind of leery of it. We're suspicious of it. Because at the end of the day, we realize, I mean, damn, that's just a bunch of ones and zeros. And if I vote wrong, or I protest wrong, or I come on the radio and talk about all this stuff to you guys, they could just say, oops, we just deleted Brooks. He doesn't have any ones or zeros left in his account. Well, I hate to tell you, I could argue until the cows come home. That's an old-timey statement. I could argue until the ends of the earth, and they're never going to restore my account. Just look what they do to enemies of the state. Look at what they're doing to John Corsi. Look at what they're doing to Roger Stone. Look at what they've done to General Flynn. All these men were innocent of anything. I mean, yes, they were commentators, and yes, they intuited things, and they said things about Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, which probably needed to be said, but they didn't like it. So they turned around and ruined those people. They ruined them. And these guys didn't molest anybody. They didn't beat anybody. They didn't rape anybody. They didn't steal money from anybody. They didn't take a bribe. They didn't launder tax money. Nothing. They did nothing. And their lives were ruined because they're enemies of the state. This is why we're leery of this cryptocurrency world. I can tell you that the cryptocurrency that China's rolling out is probably, more than likely, going to be backed by gold. That changes the game, Earth Explorers. It changes the game big time. We're not talking about prime numbers anymore. We're not talking about oil. We're not talking about ones and zeros. We're talking about real gold. It might be just a little, fake strip of gold. It might be gold paint, but it's gold. You see, we abandoned the gold system in 1971. It was actually ruled out in 1972 by Richard Nixon. And the ramifications of this are beyond anything that I could talk to you about in 3 hours. We've been off of it since 1972. It is now almost 2020, okay? Think about that. Think about that for a second. That is 48 years that we have been off the gold standard, and we've been a nation for over 243 years. So if we think of it in that terms, in those terms, we're talking about a small portion of the history of the United States. And there are other nations that we can go by. You can look at Rome. Actually, you can look at two Roman empires. You can look at the one in Constantinople, and you look at the other one in Rome. In Rome, they went off the gold standard, and they were gone in about 100 years. Constantinople stayed on the gold standard, and they survived for almost 1,000 years. You see, it's a big deal if you link the value that you're exchanging between one another with gold. It's a big deal, and they should be doing it. And I'm here to tell you that the first currency that does it is probably going to command the world. Now ask yourself, what do you want? Because this kind of currency is meant for state control. It's no longer a free market. It's a state market. And China has long argued that cryptocurrencies create chaos and they create disorder. Cryptocurrencies' key benefits are hugely negative for them, for China. Why would they want to do it? They can't be centrally controlled, and the users must sell fiat currency to purchase the digital currencies. In other words, they got to trade their yuan in to get the cryptocurrencies. So they're trading a fiat currency in for a non-fiat currency. China's state digital currency affords several benefits for the communist regime. It is a digital currency that it can control 100%, 24 hours a day, down to the split second. The government can track where it's going, where it came from, when it's being spent. And it's a domestically developed technology that doesn't rely on foreign entities like the dollar, like the Fed, like Belgium or Brussels. Beijing undoubtedly has plans to use its digital currency to exert more control and surveillance on its users, on its citizens, and maybe even people outside the country. Unlike paper money, state-controlled digital currency can be used to track consumer spending extremely accurately and also to enforce strict capital controls. In other words, you didn't smile enough today, that's 20 credits. You were rude to a police officer, that's 40 credits. You voted for my opponent, that's 175 credits. You didn't show up to work today, you called in sick, you're having illicit sex. All of these things they know. Why? Because that's the only money in town, and the money's being watched very closely. You show me somebody's credit report and show me their bank account for a couple months, and I can tell you everything you want to know about that person. As simple as that, and they got a lot more details than that. We don't seem to have any viable alternatives unless we gold back the dollar, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. Cryptocurrencies, inherently, they bypass the central banks. They bypass the international banks. They bypass the SWIFT system, which is the way we wire money from country to country or from company to company inside a country. And it's unlikely to be legitimized by the authorities, the real banking authorities like the Fed. Absent advancements in blockchain by Western banks, Libra is perhaps the most logical challenger to China's proposed currency. And Libra is probably not going to happen anytime soon. I don't think we'll see Libra for 3 years, maybe. It isn't ready. Well, yes, the currency's ready. Certainly there are enough Facebook users out there. That's not the issue. They have plenty of employees. They have the technology. What they don't have is they don't have control over the artificial intelligence that runs it. They've tried it a couple times, and the artificial intelligence got away from them. It started thinking on its own. It started taking autonomous decisions. It started writing its own code, which the creators couldn't figure out, and they couldn't hack. They don't want to have happen with Libra what happened with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was taken over by the AI. Trust me, the best hackers on the planet, if you know who Norton Antivirus is, the founder of that, McGaffrey, went after Bitcoin and tried to hack it. Couldn't do it. It was waiting for him every single time he got there. It was not a human that was doing that. It was the artificial intelligence. I'm just telling you, China's moving faster than anybody, and because they're in a liquid cash problem right now, they're going to be motivated to move to this system sooner rather than later. How does an American, how does a European person, how does a person living on British sterling protect themselves? If you're out there and you're listening, you need to put your money, at least 25% of your liquid money, like if you're sitting there today, right now, at Sunday night at 9 o'clock, 9:30 Eastern time, you're sitting there with $2,500 in the bank. Let's make it easy, $2,400 in the bank, $2,400. 25% of that money, unless you've got $2,400 worth of bills coming out tomorrow, you need to auto pay them. 25% of that money needs to be in metal, gold and silver, bars, coins, ingots, whatever. And it needs to be in your hands. Next week, maybe I'll break one out of my vault and I'll show you what they look like. If you've never seen one, they're not that big. I mean, a silver bar is about the size of this phone right here. That's it, a 10-ounce silver bar. Right now, silver's $17, $18 an ounce. Very affordable, very affordable. It could change. Gold is about, you can buy it for between $1,250 and $1,500 an ounce. It depends on where you get it and what form it's in. But if we go to a gold-backed dollar, you're looking at $10,000 gold. It won't last at that price. It will balance out pretty quickly, maybe a week or so, but it will shoot up. And once we're linked to gold, it's going to change our economic picture for a while. The Fed will no longer have control over us because the fiat currency won't apply. The issue is that we run the risk of the Fed doing the same thing that they did to the money supply the last time, which is collapsing it, causing a depression. and this is an engineered collapse of the economy. Remember, we are in the most dangerous times in the history of our country. Oh yeah, more dangerous than Midway. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, more dangerous than Vietnam, more dangerous than Bay of Pigs. I'm telling you, more dangerous than any of that. The next 12 months are very dangerous for this country. That's why you need to stay tuned in to this program. You have to, because you've got to stay informed. You have to know what's going on so you know where to stand and you know what to do. Yes, we are too. We are in danger. I'm telling you, the chat room's running too fast for me right now, but I will tell you this. The global syndicate never gives up. They never surrender. Well, how many wars have we fought? How many millions of Americans have already died? Millions. Million Americans died in the Civil War. And that was just Americans killing Americans. Does the global syndicate care? No, they don't. Their only goal is to destroy us. They don't want to make us stronger. They want to make us weaker. They want to tear us apart, and they want us to tear ourselves apart. And they're going to lose in 12 months. In 12 months, they're going to be eviscerated at the polls. They know this. They're not stupid. They're desperate. They're a wounded animal, and they're cornered. And a wounded animal that's cornered is very, very dangerous. In my book, Charm of Favor, and I'm just telling you, if you haven't read the book, you need to read it. Because in this book, there is a bomb plot. And the bomb plot is very real. The players in it are very real. The capabilities in it are absolutely accurate. It's like Tom Clancy on steroids. If you know anybody that reads, this is a great Christmas present for them because it will open their eyes. And they need to read this book in the next 3 months. You have to read this book. You've got to be made aware. You have to wake up. And this is the book that does it. Also, don't forget, if you're making international calls, you have to get this app. I've got it. I like it. I'll tell you why I like it, because the calls are crystal clear. The app on my phone is so simple. You make an international call, and the other person doesn't have to have the app. You can call any number anywhere in the world, and it sounds like they're right next door. You turn your cell phone into a satellite phone. Now, if you're a traveler, if you talk to people overseas all the time, you're like me, you need to have this. AT&T will give it to you for $10 a day. This is way less than that. We'll see you right after the break. Don't go away.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products, available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Jim Ram, retired. In early 2012, I was facing a laundry list of chronic health conditions that my physician was telling me were incurable. I knew there had to be a better way, and I learned how I could reverse every one of my ailments with science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition. In just a few months, I was able to reverse high blood pressure, gastric reflux, sleep apnea, arthritis, degenerative disc disease, heart arrhythmia, AFib, and many more. And I've lost over 70 pounds and kept it off. Now I'm hosting a radio program that's dedicated to helping my listeners do the same. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're sick of being used as an ATM by your doctor, then you'll want to tune into the Your DIY Health radio program here on Truth Frequency Radio every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern and 6 to 8 a.m. Pacific.
Real people, real radio. Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
Hey, welcome back to the program. We are halfway through X Squared Radio tonight. We are America Free Radio, the voice of the revolution. I'm going to be in Seattle January 11th with my Success Mentoring class. The tickets are available on Eventbrite. But you can also, if you're in Seattle, that's fine. But what I would like you to do is go to, let's see if I can find it. I can't find it right at the moment. But what you need to do is go to my website that talks about, here we go, several different cities. I got Charlotte, got Phoenix, got Seattle. There are different dates there. And all you have to do is go to my website, which is brooksagnew.com, and click on the Success Mentoring link. If you do that, go to brooksagnew.com and click on the Success Mentoring link. Here's what you're going to get. I'm going to come to your city. So you don't have to fly anywhere. You don't have to stay in a hotel. Normally, if you go to a conference, like you go to Contact in the Desert or the Human Origin Conference coming up in April, you're going to see the Remembering the Future lecture for 90 minutes, and then that's it. You're going to come to my table, we're going to talk, we're going to shake hands, you're going to buy a book, and that's the end of that. At these events, you get me for 5.5 hours. Now, this is a little bit different. It's different in a lot of respects. First of all, you get a lot more attention. Second of all, you get the thing that you get is you get the 90-minute lecture, then you get the 1 hour group mentoring. This is where we put you together in 8 groups, 8 different tables. We'll do group workshops, working through the activities that I'm going to put you through that'll help you map out your next 40 years, because the first 40 years you did what you had to do. The next 40 years you're going to do what you dream, and we're going to teach you how to do that. And then after that, I'm going to take one person from each of those groups, and they get 15 minutes with me face-to-face, one-on-one, and ask me anything. And then I'll give you the advice based on that 15 minutes. In addition to that, there are other services. You can go into a group mentoring webinar that'll go for up to 6 people. And those 6 people will get me for 30 minutes, 3 times. This will be over a period of 3 weeks. In that period of time, we will go through what it is that you dream. If you want to start a business, or you want to make an investment, or you want to make a change in your life, all of those things we'll talk through. You can also get me for 1 hour, totally one person, one-on-one, and we'll go through a business plan. We'll go through a pro forma. I will give you templates, help you fill them out. You can work on those as a homework project, and you can put together a business plan to start your own business, make a change in your life, and then on top of that, one more bonus. I will hold you by the hand and walk you through the process live of filing your own patent. All of that you get with the Success Mentoring course. Now, it starts at $47. That's about the price of a movie, right? You go to the movie, you buy the popcorn for 2, you're going to spend $47. Yeah. You're going to be entertained for, 102 minutes. Fine. But we're talking about 5.5 hours that could change your life. It will change your life. You will come out of here knowing what to do, how to do it, and what to go after. Now, there's only 3 cities. There are only 3 cities up there right now. There's Seattle, Phoenix, and Charlotte. But there's a form on that website, brooksagnew.com, Success Mentoring. There's a form. If you don't see your city on this tour, you can add it. You can add the city. And what I will do is get with you, and I will give you, if you put your city in there, I will give you free admission to everything, all the way through to the end, free to you, if you help me promote it in that city. Now, it only takes 30 people to make these things viable for me. Only 30. Of course, I would like to see 300. I'd like to see 500. We want to really make a big difference here. But 30 people to make it go. Now, that's pretty reasonable, I think. This is a business relationship between you and me, all right? I'm just telling you. You get my 30 years of experience, my 6 Sigma Master Black Belt. You get my lean manufacturing. You get my value stream mapping experience with the Fortune 500 for the last 25 years of that. And I bring it to you. You get it one-on-one. So that's it. That's my pitch. It's at Eventbrite if you want to find it. If you want to go to my website, you can do that. It's brooksagnew.com and click on the Success Mentoring site. Easy enough. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about. Go on to the next thing. Mercury. Not mercury the metal, not mercury what's in most vaccines out there. I'm talking about the Mercury transit. So tomorrow, for those of you, there's a couple things happening cosmologically speaking tomorrow. Tomorrow during the day, observers and scientists in North America are going to have your last opportunity to see something. It's not going to happen again for 30 years. Some of you will not be there 30 years from now, so this is your last chance. Mercury is going to cross in front of the sun as seen from Earth. It's a process known as a transit. Now, although the last transit of Mercury occurred only 3 years ago, the next one's not going to happen until the year 2032. And it won't be visible from North America. These rare events provide the opportunity for scientists to gather both new scientific observations and recreations of historical ones. Because it is closer to the sun than Earth, Mercury constantly passes between our planet and our star, but its orbital plane, okay, it doesn't quite line up with Earth's. Okay, it's kind of skewed from Earth. So when it passes between us and the sun, it's not directly in front of the sun. It goes above or below, so we don't really see it. It's kind of a bright spot as it goes by at night because the sun is reflecting off of it. But only when Mercury's orbit crosses the plane of Earth as it appears in line with the sun is a transit visible. In other words, the sun is behind Mercury and we can see the profile like a comparator. You know what a comparator is? Yes? No? It's like a screen with a magnifying lens on it, and you put your part behind it and it magnifies the shadow of your part up on a screen, and you can make very accurate measurements on this comparator. You can even compare it against a set of quantitative prints to make sure that the part you're making is the part you want to make. We can look at Mercury the same way. It's kind of cool. Mercury transits happen either in May or in November, but most occurring in the fall. So during the May transits, Mercury's closer to us, so it appears larger than in November. A tiny planet will transit next, as I told you, in 2032, and then again in 2039. I'll be here, but you might not be here. But the sun will be on the horizon for the North American observers, making this year's the last one visible for the continent until May of 2049. I mean, if you want to see it in 2032, you're going to have to buy a plane ticket and go to the southern hemisphere. One of the most common transit observations is to measure when each side of Mercury comes in contact with the solar limb. That's the very edge of the sun. These events are usually referred to as contacts, okay, with the planet being fully in front of the solar disk during the second and third contact. The first contact occurs at the moment when Mercury's silhouette touches the sun's disk for the first time, marking the beginning of the transit, and the fourth contact is when Mercury has completely moved off the sun's disk. Now, I will use my pair of solar binoculars. They're binoculars, and I can look straight at the sun with these binoculars, and I can look at the sunspots on the sun if there are any, which there haven't been in a long time. But I'll be able to see Mercury travel across the face of the sun with my binoculars. The sun fills the eyepiece, so you really have to be steady or brace your binoculars on them, or you're not going to keep it in place. But then I can see Mercury traveling across the sun, and it's quite cool. You know, you see still pictures of the sun, and that's pretty cool. But when you can see the sun and all the energy on it and the flux and everything operating on it is quite stunning. It's really something to behold. And these are H alpha binoculars, so it's really, really cool. And of course, you could buy a cornetoscope if you want to spend $800, and you could watch it. That's even more fantastic than these solar binoculars, but it's pretty cool. After observing a transit of Mercury, Edmund Halley realized that a planet would appear in different positions at the same time to observers at different locations of the Earth. By comparing how the planet shifted with the distance between the two observation points, observers could calculate the distance to the sun. So way back in 1769, more than 25 years after Halley's death, astronomers were finally able to use a Venus transit to make the first calculations about the Earth-Sun distance and the resulting size of the solar system. So the other thing that's going to happen tomorrow is the Taurids. That's Taurids, the Taurids, like Taurus. The Taurids are usually pretty brilliant, though not as frequent, meteor showers. The nice thing about the Taurids is that they usually make pretty good fireballs. And they can go zipping across the sky really fast, like the Geminids. But they can also be really slow. I remember being in Texas one time, and I was going to Florida, and I was driving along the panhandle of Florida to get to Orlando, the Orlando area, and a huge fireball came through the sky, and I was I don't know, down there in Alabama somewhere. I was over my left, out my left windshield, the driver's side. And it was so slow. It was like, it looked almost like a Flash Gordon event, with flames coming off the back of it. And I actually thought it was going to hit. When it went down below the tree line, I actually braced myself on the steering wheel because I thought there was going to be a huge shock wave. Of course, it never came. It was probably 80 miles up there, but it may have bounced off the atmosphere and just went its merry way. It never came to the ground, but it was just fabulous, just a fabulous fireball. And this is where you're going to see them, in the torrids, because they're so big and they come out of the northeast. And if you have a clear view of the northeast at night, and hopefully it's clear tomorrow night, you'll be able to see them. And they'll last for a couple of nights. Best time to view it is after midnight on the East Coast. All right. We also realize Mercury has a very thin atmosphere, which is kind of a function of the fact that the sun has a tremendous amount of solar wind that's just, stripping anything off of Mercury. When Mercury's in front of the sun, we can study the exosphere close to the planet. We use high-powered telescopes. We can look right in on it and use the sun as a backdrop. The sodium in the exosphere absorbs and re-emits a yellow-orange color from sunlight. If you've ever burned sodium in a loop in a lab as a qualitative test, you'll know what that yellow looks like. The Hubble Space Telescope relies on a similar method to study the upper layers of atmospheres of planets and solar systems beyond Earth as they pass in front of their stars. Yes, I know you went up, but you don't know how to open the door, so you're just going to have to wait till commercial. I don't know. You have cats? Would you like a cat? I have a cat. You probably see him in the background walking around there. He's wants out and doesn't know how to open the office door. Military batteries. Oh, this is another article. Yes, I love this. Okay, we're done talking about Mercury. And I want to go back to talk about this imperial debt. We talked about, and we do talk about, China's economy because it affects our economy. It is a global economy, and it does have a massive effect on the stability of the world economy. And China realizes this. China, they sort of realize that if they make a big mistake, then it's going to pull the whole world down to a black hole. All right, so the cat did figure out how to open the door, and a human closed the door from the other side. So we're good to go. I thought he was going to lay in the other chair here and sleep all night, but he didn't. He just, thank goodness. So China is accused of leveraging massive loans that it holds over small states worldwide to snatch assets and increase its military footprint. There's a book out there called Diary of an Economic Hitman. And it talks about U.S. policy years and years ago was to put these small countries in debt, building a dam or building, building oil infrastructure or building a highway or bridge or something like that. And the small countries may get some revenue from it, but the revenue ends up going to the top 2, 3, 4% of the country, like it does in Ukraine, and the rest of the country, lives in squalor. Of course, what happens is the greed takes over, the payments get slow, and then they go delinquent, and then what happens is we move in and repossess the country. And this is exactly what China is doing. Countries around the world owe huge sums. I'm talking trillions of dollars to President Xi Jinping's China. Countries around the world owe these sums, and they can't get out from underneath the debt. Developing countries from Pakistan, Djibouti, the Maldives to Fiji, they all owe huge amounts to China. And already there are examples of defaulters being pressured into surrendering control of, guess what? Yeah, their assets, oil, diamonds, precious gems, ports, and land, allowing military bases on their land. Some are calling it a debt trap diplomacy or debt colonialism, debt imperialism, offering enticing loans to countries unable to repay and then demanding concessions when they default. Chinese money is all over South America. Chinese money is all over South Africa. It is incredible. Chinese money is pouring into Venezuela right now. They're pouring it in with shiploads of money. And they're also building tech infrastructure. Why? Because it's only a few minutes away. If they were to launch something from Venezuela, it would be in America in a few minutes. Sri Lanka provided a prime example last year. We watched this on the news. China has the world's largest military by personnel, owing more than $1 billion in debts to China. Sri Lanka handed over a port to companies owned by the Chinese government on a 99-year lease. And Djibouti, which is the home to the U.S. military's main base in Africa, also looks like it's going to have to cede control to a Beijing-linked firm. America is eager to stop the Doralé container terminal from falling into Chinese hands, particularly because it sits next to China's only overseas military base. We would kind of like to keep our eye on it. But last March, ex-Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, you remember him, don't you? I remember him, said Beijing encouraged dependency using opaque contracts, predatory loan practices, and corrupt deals that mire nations in debt and undercut their sovereignty. Oh, the big guys in the country, they make out really well. They get to sell their stock back they buy their stock back and make themselves wealthy, and then they can afford to move to, Miami, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. It is estimated the Chinese military sits at over 2 million personnel. That's active duty. They have way more than that everywhere else. A report from the Center for Global Development offers some insight into the spreading China debt. This is a big deal because China's having liquidity problems right now, and part of the reasons they're having liquidity problems is because of the bad debts that they have loaned out through their what's called the development bank. The development bank. You remember the thing called BRICS? BRICS. It was Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and I think there are 147 other countries in it. It didn't last very long because the big partners in it, the BRICS, they distrusted each other. And what happened is China moved into South Africa and China moved into South America, and they started squeezing out the other countries, especially when the ruble, which is the Russian money, began to get squeezed by the Fed during the reset that the Clintons were talking about. Many of these projects are linked to the Belt and Road Initiative. You've heard a lot about it. You've heard it marketed. We've talked about those things on this program. It's a bold project to create trade routes through huge swaths of Eurasia, with China at the absolute center. Debt-ridden Sri Lanka's, Hambantota port, which China recently seized control of debt-ridden Sri Lanka's Hambantota port, which, participating countries often undertake work on roads and ports with part funding from China. And I saw it happening in Tibet too. I don't think Tibet ended up not paying the loan back. I think China just moved in and took their liberties with it. More recently, China's debt empire has been rearing its head in the Pacific. The Pacific means a lot to us because that's kind of the free, open ocean, places that we like to go. You'll remember in the last couple of years, several military destroyers were T-boned by civilian craft. Yeah, like container ships and freighters. They just rammed right into American ships. And silly thing is, nobody was on the American ship going, hey, aren't they heading for us? There was nobody awake. One of the boats actually T-boned the destroyer right at the captain's quarters. But the captain didn't get killed because the captain was somewhere else. Yeah, he no longer captain right now. More recently, China's debt empire is really exerting its power. Some of the disputed South China Sea islands now have airstrips built on them. They have moved aircraft there, yes. They have land there. They've done maneuvers there. They have a lot of stuff that's also under the surface of the water. We don't know if submarines are going in and out of there. Military batteries have been spotted on the disputed islands, all built by China, all built with our money. Indirectly, because we had such a huge trade deficit with them. They don't appear to be of an offensive design, I have to say. You know, they're not these long-range missile silos, but they're rather defensive. And what this means is it's preventing any sort of forward command from being established by a foreign country. In other words, we can't go in there and occupy one of these unoccupied islands with special forces and really watch what China's doing, because China's already there. China already has a base there, and they have plenty of men to staff it. In April, China made these intentions more obvious, approaching Vanuatu, which is they're about setting up a military base right there. Australia expressed alarm at this move, obviously. Vanuatu owes about 191 million euros or pounds to China, according to one think tank. Among the projects this money funded was the largest wharf in the South Pacific. Had to be artificially built. That takes a lot of money to get the man and materials and machines there. Considered capable of accommodating aircraft carriers. This is a big deal to be able to dock an aircraft carrier and refuel it and repair it. And they have these new futuristic AK-47 laser rifles that can incinerate targets 1,000 yards away. I don't know how much power they consume. I don't know how often they can fire. Maybe it's a fire once and throw it away rifle. I designed a coil gun myself, and I can tell you the power supply for it is not easy. It's not something you pack around by yourself. You may hook some rifles into it or put it on a half track or something, but it's not something that you can carry around. Not practically yet. Don't sweat it yet. There's a port in Vanuatu that's received these massive military upgrades. 2 loans from China's Export-Import Bank totaling more than these 91 million pounds. And it actually equals a quarter of the country's gross domestic product. That's a lot of money. That's a big loan. China defended its lending practices, saying they were sincere and they were unselfish, and they insisted that it's only lent to countries that could repay. We obviously know that is not true. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away. We're going to talk about a little voter fraud that's been going on out there. Not a little, a lot. It should be pretty crazy. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio coming at you right after this.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We're proud to feature cutting-edge programs like The Christopher Everard Show, The Covert Report with Susan Lindauer, Enemy Within Radio with Tom Barnes, Freaky Friday with The Woo Crew, The Gematria Effect with Zachary Hubbard, America's Evil Genius with Travis Cook, Phoenix Rising Radio with Phoenix, Quantum Connections with Lucky, and dozens more. Did you know you can listen from any telephone by dialing 641-793-7117 or call into your favorite show toll free at 833-TFR Live. Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media. Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception.
House hearings going public. California fire threat improving. I'm Evan Haining. The inquiry into whether President Trump should be impeached will go into higher gear this Wednesday with the first televised hearing. On ABC's This Week, Republican Congressman Mac Thornberry offered his opinion of the president's conversation with Ukraine's leader, which is at the center of the impeachment probe.
I believe that it is inappropriate for a president to ask a foreign leader to investigate a political rival. Now, it leads to a question. If there's a political rival with a family member who's involved in questionable activity, what do? Just let them alone. But set that aside. I believe it was inappropriate. I do not believe it was impeachable.
Firefighters in California are breathing easier, but not resting, after several major blazes in the state have been contained. Here's correspondent Jim Roop.
All the major fires, the massive Kincaid fire in Northern California, burning since October 23rd, the Easy and Getty fires in L.A., all contained, but the National Weather Service predicts continued dry conditions and winds. Light winds, but winds just the same, and warm temperatures. This means the fire danger still exists through at least December.
On Tuesday, the Supreme Court will hear arguments about Trump's attempt to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals DACA program. Correspondent Ariane DeVoe has a preview.
The Dreamers hired a conservative lawyer, Ted Olson, and he's basically going to look at Chief Justice John Roberts and other conservatives on the court, and he's going to say, look, this isn't about whether or not the entire program is illegal or unconstitutional. What this case is about, he'll say, is how the Trump administration moved to terminate it. They didn't do it the right way.
Reports of widespread celebration in Bolivia tonight following President Evo Morales' resignation today. I'm Evan Haining.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Earth Explorers, those of you listening on TFRlive.com, hang in there. And you YouTubers, thank you for joining me. Thanks for all the great questions in the chat room. Zizabug says, doesn't the president have sole discretion over foreign relations? Shouldn't this be able to stop this sham? Yes, but normally what would happen is the president would have to have some show of military might in order to back up those negotiations. Presidents in the past, what they have done is kind of taken a, show off the Navy tour, where we take an armada and we sail it around the world, by all these countries and say, see, here we are, here's our big muscle. And, meanwhile, the president picks up the phone and says, hey, we'd like to talk about our foreign relations. And as long as you don't have some whistleblower sitting there going, wow, I really don't like the way the president said, hey, and, that ends up being impeachment. I mean, that's how ridiculous it is. And also, yes, Piper, Semper Fi, happy birthday to the Marines. Absolutely. My two friends, Dean and Howard, Dean and Howard Ford, who Dean Ford was my old scoutmaster. Howard Ford's his twin brother, and they both went to Vietnam together, flew helicopters in the Marines as crew chiefs, and they are former Marines and great friends of mine, so Semper Fi, my friends. Also, let's see, people can counterfeit plastic by pulling that little chip off of your card and sticking it on another card. those of you that are running businesses, be wary of that going on out there. And Piper says that Mercury's transit in front of the sun was called the Eye of God by ancient civilizations. Probably a good thing to realize as well. Look up at the sky and see strange things happening and think that some deity is responsible for it, Mars or Venus or Jupiter, and the list goes on and on, all kinds of star systems as well. All right, I want to talk a little bit about voter fraud. It's probably happening in your neighborhood, and here's how it's happening. The most successful way is a process called ballot harvesting. Now, ballot harvesting takes place when a voter is entitled to an absentee ballot. A lot of these people are living in nursing homes. Maybe some people living in another state, they want to vote in their home state. Obviously, you can't vote twice. So if you're a New Yorker living in Miami, don't get an absentee ballot for New York and then vote in Miami, because that's a federal crime and you'll go to jail for it. But what happens is a lot of times these people can't get out and vote, but they receive the ballots anyway. And if you've ever filled one out, it's not all that easy. Yeah, you go through and you vote it all, but then you got to have a couple signatures. You got to have a couple people sign them, and they have to put their numbers on there so they can be reached, so the vote can be validated, right? And it's a little bit of a pain in the butt because, when you're old, you don't write so well, you don't see so well, and maybe it would just be okay if I just gave the absentee ballot to somebody else. And what happens is these votes are harvested, especially provisional ballots, and they're brought together into these voting factories, and they sit down and they vote up all these ballots. And it ain't a small amount. It's like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 ballots. You know what a ream of paper looks like, right? 500 sheets is like this thick, right? Well, a ballot's a little bit thicker than that. So about 500 ballots is about this thick. So when we're talking about 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 ballots, it's a big ass stack of paper, all right? Takes up bins and bins and bins and bins. I call it ballots R Us. And then what happens is the election is over, Tuesday night happens, midnight, they count up the votes, and oh my God, a Republican has won the election. Quick, pick up the phone, Kamala Harris, and call ballots R Us. So she calls up ballots R Us. She's losing. She's lost the election by 16,000 votes. 16,000 votes. She lost the election in California. So she calls up Ballots R Us. Ballots R Us brings an Enterprise rent-a-truck with tons and tons of ballots in it, and they unload these ballots, and they count them in, and guess what? Kamala Harris wins. And that's the way it happened. 9 precincts in California this occurred. 9 of them. 9 Republicans won their elections, and then they lost. Same thing happened in New Mexico. Same thing happened in Texas. Same thing happened in Arizona. Same thing happened in Kansas. Over and over and over. And guess what? A couple days ago, on Tuesday, they had a special election in the state of Kentucky, and 120,000 votes for the governor turned up missing. That's a hell of a lot of votes, okay? People went in, they voted Republican right down the ticket. Everybody down ticket won, the attorney general won, and won handily. Remember, Trump won that state by 26%. 26%. But the Republican governor lost by a small margin. 120,000 of those all-in Republican voters mysteriously left the spot for governor blank. That just doesn't happen. Maybe 2,000 people maybe 5,000 people were mad. Maybe 10,000 people were mad. Not 120,000 people. It's happening every single day. America's electoral obsession isn't Russian meddling anymore. Okay, get that through your head. You're listening to America Free Radio. This is the truth. It's ballot harvesting. It's a long disputed practice, and it's illegal. Okay, it is against the law. You go to prison for it. With ballot harvesting, paper votes are collected by intermediaries, nursing home workers, social workers, campaign workers, staffers, intermediaries who then deliver them to these polling stations. They're special polling stations, presumably increasing voter turnout, but also creating opportunities for mischief. And of course it does. State after state after state where this is practiced, and it is practiced in every single state in the union, it can make a difference, especially if the elections are close, 1 or 2 or 3%. It can make a huge difference in the turnout of the election. Here's the deal. With the exception of North Carolina, it benefits Democrats every single time. In North Carolina, ballot harvesting was practiced earlier this year, and they caught the guy, a Republican, and they threw him out of office. Yeah, and guess what? They had a special election, and another Republican won. Not by ballot harvesting, but that's what I'm talking about. This is suspected in North Carolina, where uncharacteristic Democrat charges of voter fraud prompted an investigation into whether Republican-paid political operatives illegally collected and possibly stole absentee ballots in a still undecided congressional race. Well, it's decided now. In California, Democrats exulted as they credited a quietly passed 2016 law legalizing ballot harvesting with their recent sweep of House seats in the former Republican stronghold of Orange County. I told you 9 precincts, all of them won by Republicans. And then by the next morning or the next couple days, all of a sudden Democrats won all those positions. In Orange County, an estimated 250,000. Get that through your head. We're not talking 20 or 30,000 fake votes. We're talking 250,000 harvested ballots were reportedly dropped off on Election Day alone. County Republican Chairman Fred Whitaker claimed the 2016 law directly caused the switch from being ahead on election night to losing 2 weeks later. One interaction caught by a Santa Clarita family's doorbell camera suggested how harvesting can work in practice. And I want you to watch for this. Be very, very careful. If you see it, arrest them. Arrest them and wait for the cops to get there. A harvester identifying herself as Lulu asks for brandy and says she is there to collect her ballot, explaining that there is this new service, but only to people who are supporting the Democrat Party. However, there is no evidence that ballots were marked or discarded by those harvesting the ballots, as is alleged in North Carolina. Election officials there have refused to certify. Yes, we know all about that story. But evidence is emerging that this is a much more widespread problem than we think. The review identified 110 of these ballot stations, we call them, and these ballots were signed by 2 women, just 2 women, who are listed as having been paid by a political action committee connected to the North Carolina Democrat Party. North Carolina is just one example. The practice is so common. It's so common, and sometimes they even pay money for these ballots. Harvesters even have their own region-specific names. Like in Florida, these people are called boleteros. In Texas, they're called politiqueros. In Missouri, Democrat State Representative Penny Hubbard, a member of the St. Louis political dynasty known for ballot harvesting, was challenged and ultimately ousted in 2016 by progressive Bruce Franks, a protester in the Ferguson unrest. Absentee ballot handling irregularities had handed her a delayed 90-vote win, even though Franks won 53% of the vote on Election Day. In Florida, a Palm Beach Post investigation into numerous 2016 primary races uncovered significant evidence of voter fraud by Democrat candidates who pushed back on any criticism by claiming racism. In Florida, a Palm Beach Post investigation uncovers significant evidence of voter fraud by Democrat candidates. Let's see here. Representative Al Jackett and a candidate for state senate, Bobby Powell, all ordered mail ballots on behalf of constituents, in many cases without those constituents even knowing about it. Then they either filled out the ballots for them or had them fill out the ballots while the candidates were present in their homes. All three candidates won on the strength of massive margins in absentee voters. One Boynton Beach couple told the Post that Bernard just showed up at the door one day in August. Joseph Surfius, a blind Haitian man, said he didn't even know who Bernard was or that he was a candidate for office, but Bernard produced a ballot, filled it out on Surfius's behalf, and then actually signed Surfius's name. I couldn't sign because I can't see, Surfius said. I gave him my voting card number. That's all I did. He wrote my name. With a presidential election looming in less than 2 years, and with the example of California fresh in mind, you better expect the fight over expanded voter rights to include pushes for legalized ballot harvesting. Watch for it and stop it. Let me take a quick sip of my ice cold grapefruit juice. By the way, CNN did a poll recently. They're doing polls all the time. And the interesting thing about CNN polls is sometimes they don't like the answers, but they publish them anyway. I was so amazed at one. They had this, focus group, and they put all this anti-Trump stuff at them for about half an hour. And then they said, okay, how many people are going to vote for Donald Trump? And they all raised their hand. And they put it out. They let people see it. I don't know why, but they did. A new poll from CNN is bad news. Oh, it's bad news for Barack Obama and the Democrat Party. With the Mueller report complete and the Russian collusion narrative collapsed, Americans seem ready to move on. So, the American public increasingly feels that the Democrats in Congress are going too far in investigating the president. 44% say Democrats are doing too much on that score, up from 38% saying so back in March. And that shift stems largely from independents. That's not good. That's not good. This is a vote that they expected to get. But 46% of whom now say congressional Democrats are going too far. And that was before Democrats wasted a whole day moaning and groaning about William Barr's memo. But the most interesting part of this poll is that 69% think Congress ought to investigate the origins of the Justice Department's inquiry into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Imagine that. That's exactly what President Trump was trying to do with Ukraine. He wanted to find out what happened in 2016. Why was that investigation stopped? Well, 76% of Democrats, 69% of independents, and 62% of Republicans. In other words, an overwhelming majority of Americans believe that the Obama Justice Department's actions in 2016 should be investigated. And guess what? They are. They are. Horowitz's report and Durham's report and Huber's report, they're all coming out very soon. I get a little worried, I got to tell you. I'm just something inside me says, the longer we wait, the worse this is going to be for America. I say that because maybe I've become a cynic along with you, but I'm trying not to let my personal feelings get involved here. I'm trying to be logical. I'm trying to be mathematic about it. I'm trying to say, what are the statistics on this? What logically can I say? And what I realize is that the longer they wait, the more it feels like they're going to get away with it. Now, I want to believe that they're waiting because, they're trying to gather more evidence. But I think there's enough evidence, It's often said you could indict a ham sandwich before a grand jury, because all you really have to do is present enough evidence to the grand jury that a crime was committed and a trial is required. And that's all. I mean, you're not assessing guilt or innocence at that point. Exactly. Boo says, go Durham. Exactly. This guy's badass. He's badass. Jeff Sessions knew exactly what he was doing putting this guy in there. And they've been collecting the information for quite some time. I think too long. But I don't think Durham's the kind of guy that lets people get away. I just don't. I think that they're going to go into the room with the grand jury and they're going to say, look, we have this crime, this crime, this crime, this crime. And by the way, 2,000 this crime and 3,000 this crime and 4,000 this crime. And the grand jury is going to say, trial, 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 trial. They're not going to let any of these guys get away with it. And the first names on the list, Samantha Power, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Ben Rhodes, these people, Newland, Victoria Newland, all these people that dealt directly in this crap, this Fusion GPS. I think anybody and everybody that touched that document had anything to do with paying for it, had anything to do with writing it, had anything to do with hand carrying it to anybody, or standing behind it, or putting any faith in it, they should be arrested. The FBI should go through their house at 4 o'clock in the morning and roust him and his wife out of the shower and out in the streets in a bath towel. They should take their computer, their phone, their iPad, all their filing cabinets, raid their bank accounts, freeze everything, and put them in jail. We saw how Bill Clinton's impeachment actually improved his poll numbers. So it's easy to infer from the polling trends we're seeing now. By the way, did you see President Trump walk into the LSU game? Oh my gosh. 105,000 fans. Now that's a Trump rally. That's a freaking Trump rally. He walked into that LSU stadium and 105,000 fans came to their feet and cheered. They stood up and they cheered. It was loud. It could have been heard for miles. There were chants of USA, USA. If you haven't seen the video, go watch it. It's inspiring. I'll tell you, after that embarrassing performance at the Nats' 5th game of the World Series, it was heartwarming to see the response in Louisiana. It was great. So, a lot of people are talking about a 2020 landslide. Maybe. Okay. Last week, Democrats took control of Virginia's House of Delegates and the state Senate. Now the Democrats hold power over the state legislature, the governor's seat, and the lieutenant governor's seat for the first time since 1993. Now, I gotta tell you why this happened. You're going to hear the news media have their ideas, and these are mine. Okay. Yes. It has to do with a lot of foreign citizens being put into that area. Not long ago, this rolling green stretch of Northern Virginia was farmland. Most of the people who could vote had grown up there, and when they did, they usually chose Republicans. The fields of Loudoun County are disappearing. In their place is row upon row upon row of cookie-cutter townhouses, clipped lawns, cul-de-sacs, a suburban landscape for as far as the eye can see. Unlike 3 decades ago, the residents are often from other countries. They're from India, they're from Korea, and when they vote Democrat. It is a totally different world there now, okay? It is a totally different world. Let's see, Charles Poland, who's 85, says, if my parents came back today, they wouldn't recognize the place. The changes came like a tidal wave. Virginia's foreign-born population has boomed over the last couple of decades. Virginia was home to less than 312,000 foreign-born residents. Today, they're close to 1.1 million, and they all vote Democrat. And this is the issue. This is the issue. And we don't really know what to do about it. But I can tell you that the reason that this occurred was mostly because of a Democrat push during the early 2000s. What happened in 2008, let me go back a little bit to 2012. Terry McAuliffe was down in Mississippi, and he was trying to start an electric car company down in Mississippi. And, you know, of course, he's the Clintons' bag man. He was a big bundler for the Clintons. Hillary Clinton's brother runs Gulf States Capital. Gulf States Capital handles about 75% of the EB-5 money. This is Chinese money that's poured into American companies in exchange for letting Chinese nationals come to the U.S. and work their way through a green card. It can help some small companies get started, but with Hillary's brother running 75% of that money, most of that money was earmarked to go to this electric car company in Mississippi, which is where Terry McAuliffe was working. Terry McAuliffe flat-ass stole $5 million from the state of Mississippi. The electric car company never got built. No, I mean the building never got built. It's still grass there. There's no building there. Terry McAuliffe took the money, drove north to Virginia, and bought the governor's seat. Now, the state of Mississippi sued. They want their money back. It's now, by the way, over $7 million with interest. But Terry McAuliffe stole the money. And during the time that he was governor, they moved hundreds of thousands of foreign citizens into Virginia. By the way, they also made the AR-15 illegal. Yeah, and they were supposed to have, over 100,000 Virginians turn in their guns. Nobody turned their guns in, so that kind of sits there as an unenforceable law on the books. The bottom line is, this was planned, just like it was planned in Minnesota, just like it was planned in Detroit. Foreign citizens brought in high concentration inside precincts, and those precincts are then controlled by the Democrats through these foreign citizens. That's how it works. And that's what we're seeing. That's why we have a 20-seat majority held by the Democrats right now. 4 of those seats are held by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ariana Presley. All 4 of these individuals were installed by these actor companies and script writers for these actors so that they could win in these exceedingly weak districts. And I'm just telling you, that's going to be very hard to get them out of Congress, because those areas are not going to vote those people out. They're not going to vote the people out. So one more commercial for WowieTel before we get out of the night. WowieTel is an app. You put it on your phone. It allows you to make calls to anybody in the world, to Sri Lanka, to Egypt, to Australia, any place you want, whether they have the app or not. Just call the number. It's a local call, and you can make unlimited calls in crystal clarity. We'll be right back after this break. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio coming at you right after this.
It's amazing how people have been raving about iAlife all over Facebook. They've been posting their testimonials just because they want to get the word out, because it's worked so well for them. If you're not familiar with iAlife, it's a 99% pure CBD oil, but the secret is the synergy between the hemp and the ayahuasca vine, the non-psychoactive component of the ayahuasca tea. We recently received an email from a wife whose husband has Parkinson's. For the first time, he's been able to sleep through the entire night. Another customer reported that they're no longer using NSAIDs because their tennis elbow has been relieved with iAlife. The reports have been phenomenal and much more than we ever expected. Everyone should have access to this. That's why if you head on over to iAlife.com right now and use coupon code TFR, we'll give you $5 towards your order. And we'll even ship it worldwide. That's ayalife.com. AYAlife.com.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Greetings, Earth Explorers. My name is Brooks Agnew, and I am your host on X Squared Radio every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Truth Frequency Radio Network. This is where the past meets the future. We explore the mysteries of the universe and of the Earth. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. We will dissolve the propaganda of dangerous people with dangerous plans for the planet. We will discuss the latest technologies and challenges for humankind. We will discover the safest place for you to stand when the thinkings and doings of mankind come flying apart, and how you can be one of the people that helps put it back together. Join us.
You are now tuned into the Truth Frequency.
Your protection from deception. TLR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
I've been waiting for this moment since my first breath in. Never would have thought I'd be afraid to begin, but here I am, the edge of the water, wondering if I can swim. Never seem to notice all the days pass through, but in this final moment I'm still chasing the truth. I want an explanation why I can't stay here forever in my youth. And if I press on, will you wait? Will you wait for me forever, or would it be wrong to ask you to come with? Tell me, will you wait?
Well, you know, I wish I could stay with you here forever tonight. We're in the last segment of America Free Radio, the voice of the revolution. Just wanted to let you all see that orange stripe there. That is a $20 donation in the top chat. Thank you so much, Boo. She says, great chat room and even better content. Thank you. And I really appreciate that more than you know. It breaks the ice. You know, we've been at this for a long time, and we recently crossed the threshold that allows the top chat to work. So now we know the system works. Let me cover this story really quick because the news has sort of covered it. I'm going to give you maybe a little additional angle to it. You know, they had the Epstein story weeks before the 2016 election. Not many people have put these pieces together. ABC had the story for 3 years. Well, I hate to tell you, but 3 years ago was election day. Ashley Bianco was actually fired, not at ABC. No, ABC killed the story, but it was a CBS person that was fired this week after her former employer, ABC, who she used to work for, determined that she had accessed footage of 2020 host Amy Robach that was later leaked. And by leaked, I mean it was handed over. On Friday, Bianco said she never leaked the clip to the right-wing advocacy group, Project Veritas, or anyone else. But even if she did, why should CBS News fire her over what might have happened at her previous job? You see, the episode raises the question of whether Bianco, a young producer who had only worked at CBS for 4 days before she was let go, maybe she could sue for wrongful termination. But 2 veteran employment attorneys told this reporter that since New York, where CBS News employed her, is an at-will state, Bianco likely has no legal grounds to challenge her abrupt dismissal, which is pretty much true. They can fire you for nothing. They can fire you because they just feel like it. Now, if she was working at will, which, by the way, most TV news producers do in the industry, that means that they can terminate her for any reason or no reason at all, like any other employee. And in New York, employment lawyer Emery Polat adding that termed contracts require justifiable grounds for termination tend to be reserved for executives or correspondents, not for reporters. And that's pretty much true. But see, when you put a reason behind this, and here's the deal. Amy Robach of 2020 had the information. She had photographs. She had testimony. She said she had the works. She had Hillary. She had everything. This is what she said on the Project Veritas tape. But they didn't release it because 2020 said, well, it doesn't really meet our standards. But we're going to go ahead and run this a gun range film in Kentucky, and we're going to change the lighting a little bit and put a logo so we can block, where the soldiers are standing there right by the gun. And we're going to say that it's Turkey invading Syria. That meets their standards just fine. But a factual report about pedophilia and everything going along with it, with the Jeffrey Epstein story in 2016, they couldn't run that. That didn't meet their standards. Why? Because it hurt their candidate. Because the major media moguls all support the Democrat candidate. And they were not ready for Donald Trump. They were not ready for a person who knew not only how to use the media, but he also knew how to use social media. I mean, when is the last time you were entertained by a tweet by Hillary Clinton? Yeah, right. Entertained by Hillary Clinton. Pissed off is more like it. In a state of disbelief that this woman is even a candidate, maybe, but not amused. The point is that Donald Trump is the master troll. He knows how to get them. So CBS News has not responded to repeated requests for comment. They don't have to. They're not going to. This is going to go away. They don't care. In her interview with Kelly on the former Fox News host's new YouTube channel, Bianco said she was blindsided by her firing. I begged, I pleaded, I didn't know what I had done wrong, and I just, I didn't. I was even given the professional courtesy. I wasn't even given the professional courtesy to defend myself, she said. I didn't even know what it was I was accused of. And she really didn't. She didn't realize that she was connected to this leaked tape that Veritas had done, had put out, where Amy had said, I was so pissed that this story came out recently because I had the goods. I was the one that had this story put together. I was ready to go with it on 2020. And you know what? It would have ended Hillary Clinton. Not only would it have ended her presidential run, it would have ended her. She would have been out of our political lives forever. So there are other things happening this week. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. I served in the Air Force. You don't have to thank me for my service because it wasn't all that good. I didn't serve my entire time because it was the end of the Vietnam War. They offered me an early out because they were downsizing everything, and I took it. And I got the GI Bill, and I went to college on it, and I became a smart, productive member of society. Was I cut out to conform with the Air Force? Maybe. Maybe I was. But I wasn't going to sit there as an E4 forever and ever and ever waiting for a line number for E5 because they were out of money, which they were out of money for a long, long time after that. So forget it. I went out in private sector and made more money, and I went to school and I enjoyed it, and I got the GI Bill. But tomorrow's Veterans Day, and President Donald Trump is going to be opening the New York City Veterans Day Parade with a speech, making history. For the first time, a sitting president has accepted an invitation to attend the annual event. That doesn't mean a lot for Donald Trump, though, because Trump is going to be opening the 100th edition of the parade with a speech addressing veterans and military officials at Madison Square Park in Manhattan on Monday. Be careful out there, Mr. President. Be careful. As his tribute, President Trump will then lay a wreath at the Eternal Light Memorial in the park. Now, Doug McGowan, who's the chairman of the United War Veterans Council, which hosts the annual parade, made an appearance on a national news program Wednesday of this week. He said, "I'm honored to announce that the Commander-in-Chief has accepted our invitation and will be leading the New York City Veterans Day Parade, the centennial, this year." Now, this is the first time a sitting president has appeared, but citizen Donald Trump, in the 80s, in the 90s, and then again in the 2000s, has been at the veterans community of New York. He's been there for them. Veterans have invited the sitting president to attend the event every year for 25 years, and Trump's the first one to accept the invitation. The parade, by the way, begins at noon Eastern. It's expected to see more than 25,000 parade participants march along Fifth Avenue. That's pretty hard to do if you've ever been to Fifth Avenue. It's not a big distance between the curb and the glass of the skyscrapers right there on Fifth Avenue. Not easy to do. And Trump Tower's on Fifth Avenue too, by the way. The Democrats are going to be furious. The Emoluments Clause, people are going to be walking into Trump Tower from the Veterans Day Parade, and he's there, and it's going to be crazy. But veterans march on the street during the 152nd Memorial Day Parade in New York City. This was May 27th, my birthday, 2019. The parade is described by the United Veterans War Council as a nonpartisan, non-political event and may not be used as a platform for any other purpose or political agenda. In 1993, almost 25 years ago, the parade was in difficult financial straits, and the President of the United States, then known as the Donald, no questions asked, just said, "Yes, I will do it." He wrote a ginormous check, saved the Veterans Day Parade, and he was honored at the Pentagon way back then. That was 1993. No questions asked. Trump said yes, wrote a check, and supported it. McGowan told the Associated Press, "This is a day when we put politics aside to focus on honoring our veterans and to recommit ourselves as a community to providing them with the services they have earned, the services they deserve, and for many, the services they were denied." We thank and commend President Trump for leading that effort on this centennial, and we acknowledge his historic support for our activities here in New York City. Cool stuff, isn't it? All right, I want to talk a little bit about the Galactic Bridge. Yeah, I'm talking Bifrost here. For the first time, scientists have detected evidence of a magnetic field that's associated with a vast intergalactic bridge that links our two nearest galaxies, two nearest galactic neighbors. That's pretty cool, huh? When two galaxies get close enough together, there's kind of a bridge between them. It's known as the Magellanic Bridge. The bridge is a huge stream of neutral gas that stretches some 75,000 light years between our two neighboring galaxies, the large and small Magellanic Clouds. Although researchers had predicted it was there, this is the first observation of its magnetic field, and it could help us understand how these vast bridges come to be. There were hints that this magnetic field might exist, but no one had observed it until now. It kind of gives another proof that we live in an electric universe with all that magnetism out there and great movement between gigantic gravitational bodies in space. You know that there is electromagnetism between them. So let's see, the two closest neighbors are between 160,000 and 200,000 light years from Earth, respectively, and they're visible in the southern night sky. Yeah, quite a fantastic picture. I've got it in my notes here. If you want to access it, it will be at my usual notes location at tfrlive.com/X2 Radio. Click on any of the notes for the entire year, all the archives there, and you can pull up that link and access all the notes for the year. It's a lot. It's about 40 pages per week for 52 weeks. Do the math. It's a lot of pages. It's about 2,500 pages per year. Researchers have long known about this Magellanic Bridge that exists between these two neighbors. It's a path with very few known stars inside of it. But until now, very little was known about the magnetic field associated with the bridge. If a bridge between the stars sounds a little sci-fi to you, keep in mind that most of space is made up of different magnetic fields. Not only are entire galaxies magnetic, but the faint, delicate threads joining galaxies are magnetic as well. Everywhere we look in the sky, we find magnetism. This is actually the bridge between electromagnetism and gravity. Gravity, we know, dissipates with the square of the distance between two bodies. The further away they get, the less gravitational pull they have on each other. So why would you think that we would have a binary star in Sirius? That's billions of miles away, way outside any gravitational field our sun could have on it, or Sirius could have on our sun. And yet, here we are. We're a binary star system. Our star is revolving around that star. It's an electromagnetic link between the two. In this case, radio signals from hundreds of very distant galaxies was used to pick up the magnetic field associated with the Magellanic Bridge. Radio signals can be thought of like waves on the surface of a pond in that they vibrate along a particular plane in space. The radio emissions from distant galaxies served as background flashlights that shine through the bridge. We call this backlighting in our technology. We use it all the time to look at other planets, other suns, other galaxies. And we also realize that there are gas particles in the open vastness of space that lie along these flux lines. And when we backlight it, we can see those particles sitting along those lines, and we can see the fabric of space-time. It's quite fascinating. This is a time when we're becoming aware and awake of many of these things, many of these forces that are working on us. We think that we, spontaneously come up with an idea. We come up with a dream, but other people come up with the dream simultaneously, and inventions simultaneously reach the patent office from all over the place, even though these people have no direct connection with each other. This information, these frequencies, these vibrations come through the solar system, and everyone is bathed by them. Every single cell, every single molecule, and every single cell vibrates with that energy. Now, different people, depending on their aptitude not their attitude. I mean, a lot of things depend on their attitude too, but also their aptitude, which means what skills have they acquired so far in their life. And we're going to talk a little bit about acquiring more skills in a minute, but you use the aptitude that you have at the time and you listen to those vibrations and you go, wow, that reminds me, I probably could figure out how to do this or that. But depending on when you're an engineer or an artist or an electrician or an electrical engineer or a financial guru or an architect, you get different inspirations from the same energy. I noticed this when I went to Tibet. When I went to Tibet, I went to the bottom of the Patala. Don't ask me how I got in there. It's a long story, which we don't have time to get into right now, but suffice it to say, it was quite magical to be let into that place. When I saw the stupa down there, it was explained by my guide, whose name was Punsala. It was explained by him that this was a apparatus that transported the soul of a Panchen Lama through a four-dimensional stargate to nirvana, to this place of heaven. And when I looked at it, it looked like something else to me. I mean, it was beautiful, all the gold and jewels and sapphires and everything and all the rainbow energy on the inside of it was fabulous. But I also noticed at the top that it had something that looked like a Tesla coil to me. So I told him, Pootsel, I think I know what this thing is. I think it's a Tesla coil. Well, how could that be? Because it was built in the year 646. You know, up until 100 years ago, the Patala was the tallest building in the world. So why would the Tibetans build something that looks like a Tesla coil when Nikola Tesla would not be born until the 19th century, wouldn't build his first coil until the late 1800s? And it didn't look anything like that. It didn't have gold and jewels and everything, but it had a similar shape. And when you looked at the stupa that was built in the bottom of the Patala, it had this kind of stylized lightning coming down the sides made of gold with ribbons wrapped around it. It was like a snapshot of lightning. But if you look at the one that Nikola Tesla built, it had real lightning coming out of it. So two different peoples, over 1,000 years apart, were shown the same thing in these vibrations, in these images, in this information that's poured out all over our solar system. And these two people, 1,000 years apart plus, designed the same thing two different ways. One with gold and art and jewels, and the other with wire and coils and electricity. One worked. One hoped that it worked. Well, these ideas come to you as well. And when you start out life, you know, we're kind of rationalized. Oh, you have to go to the 4th grade. And then, you know, you have to memorize your times tables, and then you have to show your work, and then pretty soon you graduated high school and you go to work in a factory. Or you say, you know what, I think I'm going to keep going to school and I'm going to get another degree and I'm going to get out and I'm going to go to work in a factory. Pretty much. You're either going to go in a factory in a bank or a factory making stuff. And somewhere 40 years later, you find yourself pretty close to 50 or a little over 50, and you realize, this isn't exactly what I had in mind. I mean, I made it. I did what I had to do. I paid my bills. I missed a responsibility. I raised 2 kids or 3 kids, and, you know, now they're out of the house. And then you look at your life situation and you say, you know, I don't think I'm going to make it with this 401k that I've got saved up. It ain't much, 40, 50,000, 80,000, a couple $100,000. It's not enough. It's not really what I need. And it wasn't really doing what I wanted to do. And gosh, I'd really like to travel the world and see things. And we have this bucket, you know, a bucket. And inside the bucket is all these list of things that we want to do before we, well, you know, before it's over. And then you realize, I'm going to make it. There's not enough money. I don't have enough money. I was talking to the lady that cut my hair yesterday. And I asked her, have you ever wanted to travel? Oh, yeah, I've wanted to travel. I want to go back to Hungary where my roots are from. But, you know, first I got to get some money together. Everybody has the same thought. I don't think she's got a 401k at Great Clips, just to tell you the truth. The point is that we find ourselves at some spot along the timeline of life, and we realize that I'm not doing what I came here to do. I'm doing what other people want me to do. And that's why I am doing this Remembering the Future tour. Now, I have been doing it as part of other people's conventions, but those are becoming few and far between. I used to speak 10, 12 times a year, and now I'm speaking 3 or 4. Because why? Not because I'm no good at speaking. It's because the events have gone broke. Nobody can afford to spend $800, $1,000, $1,500 to go to these events. And so they don't. So what I have done is I've created a program where I will come to your city. I'll come to Seattle. I'll come to Phoenix. I'll come to St. Louis. I'll come to San Antonio. I can see you out there listening. I want you to go to my website, which is brooksagnew.com, click on the Success Mentoring link, and go down to the bottom. I mean, the whole program is outlined there, and you can read about it. But it's $47. You don't have to fly anywhere. You don't have to spend the night anywhere. You could take a cab. Come and see me. And in that 5.5 hours, I will show you how to put that dream back within your reach. I'm just saying the bounty of the universe is yours, and it is a mathematical truism, and it cannot be denied. The universe absolutely positively has no choice but to deliver it to you if you do the right things. I don't mean pray, I don't mean get a tattoo, none of that stuff. These are mathematical principles that are applied, and I show you how to do it. And all you have to do, if Seattle or Charlotte or Phoenix is not one of your cities, and you'll see the buttons down there at the bottom, then write your own city in the form in the bottom. Write your own city and hit the submit button. And here's what I will do for you if you do that. If you do that, not only will I come to your city, but I will give you free admission to everything. That's about a $1,200 value. I will give you free admission to everything if you help me promote it in that town. And all I need is about 30 or 40 people to make it worth my while to come there. You don't have to pay for anything beyond that unless you want the additional benefits. There are some features about it that cost more money, but it's a lot of value. But you get 5.5 hours for that $47. If you pay the upgrade, which I think is $67, you even get a meal with it. 5.5 hours, and I feed you food as well as knowledge. You don't get a value better than that. So go to brooksagnew.com / and click on the Success Mentoring link, and you'll be taken right there. And the more people, the better, but I got to have at least 30 to make it worth my while. I'm Brooks Agnew. This is X Squared Radio. I come here every Sunday night between 8 and 11 on YouTube Live or Facebook Live, certainly TFRlive.com, and give you the best that I've got. And I'm saying, peace, Earth Explorers. Go forth fearless, and we'll see you next week right here on X.